Good morning, everyone. How are you all today? Are you chomping at the bit? I've just had a message from Rick. I think I've sent him the wrong link. So just bear with me 1 minute because that's pretty terrible, isn't it? You know, that I send the wrong link out. So coming up in today's show, we are going to be exploring the whole question of what does your body know that you don't yet know? And I've got lovely Sarah Taylor waiting in the wings. She's chomping at the bit. I'm just quickly sending this out to Rick as well, so so that he can join us as well. Poor Rick, he's in Bali, probably waiting, going, oh God, why she take so long? I'm going to put it down to Mercury retrograde. For those of you that know, obviously I'm an astrologer, and it's a great catch-all, isn't it, that you can blame on when things go wrong. Oh, it's Mercury retrograde. Right. Okay. Let's just send that to Rick. Paste. Hopefully that's the right one. So anyway, so in today's show, we are going to be exploring what our body knows. And my question to you is, what do you already know about yourself? Like, what have you learned from your body? Have you had these moments where it's felt like your body has been speaking to you? And you weren't quite aware of it, and then you made the connection. I'd love to hear your stories. I can see Rick's made it. So obviously I've sent the right link now. I've got Thunder Duck joining us, T-Duck joining us in the chat room. Please do let us know where you're listening in from if you feel courageous enough to become part of the show, because obviously we like to bring you on and your comments and stuff. Anyway, let's bring both of my guests on today. So first of all, we've got Rick Pursell joining us from Bali. Hey, Rick, how are you doing?
Hi, doing very well. Excited.
It's been a few weeks, isn't it?
It has. Yeah.
I'm
going through Louisa withdrawal symptoms.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I do feel like I need to talk with you, and I haven't had much of a chat. We're getting a few welcomes. So far we've had T-Duck joining us and welcoming us, and we've got Vivian S saying, my splendid morning just got better because of you. Bon dia. Isn't that lovely? We've also got lovely Sarah Taylor joining us, who is absolutely a knockout. It's the first time of being on the show as well. So let's bring her on now. Hey, Sarah, how are you doing?
Great. How are you? Hi, Rick.
Very good.
Hi, Rick.
And we've got Owen Lloyd Martin joining us. So he's listening in. He's listened to quite a few of our shows, Rick. He's saying, morning, beautiful people. I think he's quite keen to meet you as well, actually, on a show coming up soon. So anyway, I've got today's dream team, you guys. What did you think of the title? What does your body know that you don't yet know? What did you think of that as a title when that came through?
Well, it was a very stimulating question and cause for some deep contemplation on it. But yeah. I've got a couple of goodies to share with you. So I thought it was a very interesting question to pose and very timely too.
Okay, that sounds interesting. In fact, it is timely because yesterday we were at the beach, and I don't know if you can see, I've got a bit of an iodine stain on my wrist,
right?
My whole elbow.
Oh my word!
I took a bit of a tumble yesterday into the Atlantic Ocean, down a jetty, slipping on some seaweed. My body it knows it's healing, and it's letting me know with all the pain and stiffness that I'm feeling. Sarah, what was your first thought?
Oh no, why do I have this question? That was my first thought. But the more I pondered it, it's a great question. And I think that the first thing is to acknowledge that the body does have a consciousness. Yeah. And we are consciousness, and our body has a consciousness because it's made of cells. So I've just been that's sort of where I went with, first of all, is just to acknowledge that you actually can, that there is a difference between the two, even though it's your body.
Yeah.
Good.
Beautifully put. And in fact, we've got some people already joining us. I think this one might be one of your friends, Sarah, because they're joining us from Canada. Genevieve's got their favourites. Morning from Canada. Owen is saying, the body knows. What do you want to add to that, Rick? Because I know you like talking about consciousness.
Yes, indeed. Well, interesting enough, the more we become conscious, the more we realize how little we know.
Mm-hmm.
So part of that question is, what do we don't know at the moment? Everything that we don't know, that we haven't just uncovered, and uncovered is the word, not discovered, but uncovered for ourselves at this stage.
Yeah.
And if we are infinite beings having a human experience, which I believe we are, then how far does that stretch out? To infinity.
Yes.
That's a lot to not know, isn't it?
Yeah. So yeah, like if our body, if all of our cells has consciousness, what is it that makes the cells in our body so free to receive information, and yet we don't receive it at the same speed? What's that about, do you think? Oh, you might not even agree with that, actually, but
Can I say something
Go ahead,
about
Sarah.
that?
Yes, please.
Well, the body's made of cells. Cells contain water. Water holds memory. And electricity, conducts electricity. So why wouldn't our cells sort of know what they like? And I was thinking about this yesterday, and it was the best example I could come up with at the time was just if you put a plant in a room that has indirect light, and you can't see it right away, but as soon as that plant is in the room, it's starting to shift its position towards where it's the happiest. And if you leave the room and come back a few hours later, the plant could be facing a completely different direction. So I think just that concept of cells know what they, if you want to use light and dark or what feels good to a cell. I was just thinking about that kind of that comparison, and I'm interested in what both of you and also in the comments what people think about that.
Yeah, well, Carl is coming in with it's a song. It's like a bump and grind song, but he's saying, my mind's telling me no, but my body's telling me yes. Anyway,
thank you for that, Carl.
And I've really ruined that song for anyone that likes a bit of bump and grind. But anyway, Rick, you were
just to add to that, Sarah. It's been estimated that we have 60 to 100 trillion cells in the body, each with their own intelligence, and possibly each with a brain. Right? So think about this for a moment. How would a single human being grasp what possibly could be going on with 60 to 100 trillion cells at any one time? At any one time. The magnitude of that would leave us absolutely flummoxed. And then could we identify which cell is speaking to us, or which cell are we aware of? We may be able to direct our attention, and where attention goes, energy flows, to a organ or a bone or a tissue or a hair follicle for those who have hair. Thank you. But we would, I guess, and I'm just thinking aloud now, we would have to direct our attention and specify which cells of what organ do we want to get a message back, right? And to think there's that many cells in the body. Wow. You wouldn't have time to drink your coffee in the morning thinking about that.
You know, when I hear, because I do tune into my body a bit now, I sometimes like ask what my body would like me to wear today. And you can tell when I make the choice because I'm in black. When I'm wearing color, it's because I've asked my body. My body's like, you want to wear like bright yellow, and I'm like, oh, really? But anyway, when I hear the voice of my cells, it sounds like a consciousness that has lots of little thoughts within it, but that is coming together. A bit like Abraham Hicks, how they channel the energy of lots of spirits, but they come through as one voice. So I hear my cells in my body, which might sound a bit weird to a few people, but I'm getting you to, it just sounds really normal, right? But I hear them almost like they're a connected consciousness, like they're all in agreement, like they're almost singing it, but I just thought I'd throw that in. And Jenny, who's our guest on Thursday, she's an ex NHS nurse, and she practices in integrative health. She's brilliant, by the way. She says the cell has a brain, the membrane. So she's like backing up what you're saying there, Rick. I mean, I can't get our family into a consensus ever. Can you imagine what it's like to round up every cell in your body?
Maybe that's why it's easier to just look at, is this heavy or light, instead of for some decisions. Certainly, if you wanted to dial in, I love that, Rick, about just which cell, which organ, which area of my body would I love to communicate with right now, and what would it take for that cell to hear me and send me the messages that I'm asking for, and my message is going to that cell. Like, I love that. It just sounds so empowering, really. It's empowering to know that you can talk to your body.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
So can you tell us a bit about that light and dark? Sorry, Rick, because you mentioned that decision-making process that you mentioned. Sorry.
Right. Well, it can be light and dark, or heavy and light. It can be yes or no. I think every body does it differently. I don't think we all have the same way of getting that awareness. I mean, if you have a big decision to make and you're using thinking to try to decide, logic, I can give you an example of this actually for myself. I will actually get a message from my body, maybe in the middle of the night, or when I first wake up in the morning. I have this awareness that I maybe didn't have when I went to bed, because I was still thinking, trying to be logical. What's the right, best, next thing? And I feel like, for me, when my eyes are closed, when I am sleeping, that will pop in. It'll wake me up in the night. So I don't want to make this too convoluted, but we were looking for houses, and we were looking for houses in the north, and we found a couple of great places, and both times I was just uneasy. I felt like something was wrong, or that it just wasn't feeling quite right. So I finally, after looking at the second place, I woke up in the night and I was like, it's not the house, it's where it is. These are great houses. But I had to be in that place of rest to kind of get it. I think we have to be resting, or I have to be resting. I don't want to speak for anybody else. So I want to make that clear. But for me, if I am rested, calm, and just in that space, then it can show up for me. If I'm really trying to it's like, oh, body, what do you want to do? It's like, you kind of, your body gives you the, it's like, you're not listening, so I'm not going to tell you.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I can vouch for exactly the same happening for me, Sarah. Usually at 4 o'clock in the morning, I'm conscious. I'm not fully awake and I'm not fully asleep. I'm in that beautiful twilight zone of where I am conscious of the consciousness that is there. And I will get, as a writer, I'll get just a message. Sometimes it's just a word, and I don't hear it, I don't see it. I just get a conceptualized idea about it.
Yeah.
And I will get up in the morning and know exactly what I'm going to do that next day in terms of writing.
Yeah.
So it could be a sentence, it could be, it's just an idea. So I get that same aspect of it, and I have to be in that alpha brainwave state where it's almost like the mind and the body disappear, and you're in that state of. It's been suggested that we visit the state of oneness in that deep sleep. And
I love that.
yeah, and this is one of the reasons why sleep deprivation is so damaging, is that we don't get to top up in that state of oneness, because it really does feel there's no body, there's a lightness about it, and there's no thinking about it. It's just a pure connection and communication from whatever it is. And for me, I label it as consciousness.
Wow. You two are a lot more meditative than I am. I find, for me, like I don't know if I go into an alpha state, but when I'm in the shower or when I'm washing up, they tend to be the times when all of a sudden something comes in. I don't know if it's me and water doing something routine, but I kind of forget who I am. And in that moment, all of a sudden, a billion ideas come up, and then I forget them all. Rick, you said that this conversation was oddly timely. So you've obviously got a story of where your body's been talking to you, or some kind of recent experience.
Okay, well, it's bound by two answers to the question.
Oh, okay.
The first thing is that, in my estimation, nature doesn't make any mistakes. Right? Yeah. We are from nature, and we'll return to nature. Then how is it that we're only using 2% of our DNA, and the rest is allegedly junk DNA? That would be a huge mistake, wouldn't it? That would be a huge glitch in, I was going to say the Matrix, but it would be a huge glitch.
You can say that if you want. You're in them.
Okay, you know I'm a conspiracy theorist.
Yeah.
But it would be an extraordinary glitch in physical evolutionary track, that here you are, a fully grown human being, masculine or feminine or whatever we are in this time, but I'm sorry, you're only going to get 2% of your DNA active. And so what I don't know about my body is that I don't know what the capacity, I have an inkling of what it would be like to operate with 100% of my DNA, right? But I really don't know what that would look like in the real world, in practical terms. So that was one of the questions. I'll save the other one for a little bit longer. But let's talk about that. Why have we only got 2% of our DNA? I know the part of that answer is there was an intervention several thousand years ago. But what we don't know is, what would it be like to have access to 100% of our DNA?
Yeah, well, that raises a question in me straight away, and call it the conspiracy theorist in me. But I always think, how do I know it's only 2% that's active? Hello, Solomon.
Hello, Solomon.
Hi,
You came to join us. Did you want to say something? But before Daddy comes to collect you. Daddy, hi. Shut the door behind you, please. Thanks, darling. So my first question is, how do they know that it's only 2%? I think I've heard 10%. But just the idea that, how do we know that so much of our DNA is junk? And obviously that sounds like a load of old hokum to me. Obviously it's not junk, because I think what nature does is, like, what is what's best in that respect. Nature knows itself. It doesn't seem to need a manual to know how to work. And yet we appear to need these guides to tell us how our body works. And yet no other animal needs that, or plant. They just know what they need to thrive. Like you were saying, Sarah, the plant kind of shifts over. I don't know what our plants are doing behind me. But so that's my first bit. It's like, how do we actually know it's 2%? But yeah, then the whole question of why has that happened? Whereas to me, like the big question that, you know, is unanswered is, why do we need guides to know how to be when every other species on this planet, plane, whatever this place is, when everything else here that appears to be doesn't need some kind of car manual to know how it works, to know its fuel, to know its patterns. We're the only ones that need that. What's going on there?
Well, that perhaps that is because we are only using 2% or
Right,
whatever
yeah.
percentage it is.
Okay.
And then the animal kingdom is possibly using 100% of its DNA, unless there's been some abrupt changes to something. So why do we need a manual? Because we're struggling in this physical instrument, this body,
Yeah.
with a very minute portion of our DNA to operate it. So that's why it would be challenging. And how do we know it's 2%? I believe quantum physics, quantum science scientists may have been able to measure that somehow. I don't know.
I wonder how.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because when you observe stuff, it changes apparently.
Yeah.
It knows it's been observed. It starts doing a little performance.
Yeah.
I wonder then, if we're only using 2% of our DNA, does that mean when we are talking to our trillions of cells, we're just talking to 2% of them? Like we're just like connected into like a little fraction of it? Or maybe we can only pick up like 2% of the bandwidth. Because for a moment there, I thought, God, imagine if I was completely at one with every single cell in my body, that I just heard the continuous song of trillions of cells firing in me. Wow, that thought almost knocked me out.
And what would it take to have more than 2% of a connection with every cell in your body? That's just what we've been doing. What if we could actually just tap into that? First of all, just looking at it and saying, this is all we're using, I'm instantly like, well, I don't want to just use 2%. That's not acceptable if I have more. But how? What ways can we tap in and actually access more than that? And I do think that being still, the times when, well, first of all, thinking about the question, and also recognizing that the minute we're born here, we're told how to be. We're told how to, and I hate even using the word, stay safe. We're taught how to, sorry, I apologize for that, but you know, I just was like, one more person tells me to stay safe. I'm 54 years old. Like, I think I figured out how to stay pretty safe so far.
I am guilty of doing stuff like that because I've been so heavily programmed by my mom saying, take care.
Like, I thought I was okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm heading out on a trip. Drive safe. It's like,
oh God, thank you for telling me that. I was gonna go like this.
Yeah. But Genevieve made a comment. I don't know if you can bring that up. Where she says, I think social conditioning can prevent us from learning how to listen to our body.
Yeah, I agree with that.
It definitely takes our attention away. If I'm around more people, I shouldn't say us. I'm going to go back to just, I'm speaking for myself here. When I'm in a group of people, sometimes what I'm feeling might not be mine. So if I really want to tap into my body, I require to be alone. There might be people who need to be in a crowd to kind of go within and do that. They could require something else. But for me, I require no other energies sort of interfering with it. I'll say interference, as it could be good, it could be not good. It maybe no judgment about any of it. It's just more than what I require.
Wow.
Yes. Yeah.
So I don't know if I spun that crazy or if
no, that sounds really sane. I was trying to tilt my head up to look at Rick.
Crazy is good. Crazy is good. Who wants to be normal?
Not me.
Just to come back there, Sarah. What will it take? I think the universal solution to all, the solvent to all of our woes as human beings on this planet, is to become more conscious.
Mhm.
And perhaps this is part of our evolutionarily conscious process, is just to become more aware, not on the outside, but the inside. We've mastered outer space to a certain degree at the expense of inner space. So by directing our attention inwards into the body and shining the light of consciousness on these cells, on these organs, on these atoms, these protons, these neutrons, and the essence that runs all the way through it, which is life force energy or consciousness, then we connect with that consciousness, and the answers, I think, will percolate up to us. That would be my read on it.
Yeah, I love that.
Wow. Me too.
T-Duck, who's watching this, is saying, my body knows where I hid the gin, but it won't tell me. That might be a good thing, T-Duck. And Carl is there to support you. And there's a bit of chat between people. Everyone's appreciating each other, which is always very nice. I love that. So, yeah, I love that. What will it take? So, like, what I heard from you, Sarah, is like being conscious of the question, what will it take, starts to facilitate the answer, or the answer that is right for you. And what I'm hearing from you, Rick, like, what will it take for us to connect to more of our DNA, is to become more conscious and turn our consciousness away from the outer and more into the inner.
Yeah.
So what examples have you got where your body has told you something?
Well, I was
It
thinking
sounded like
about
you've
this.
got another example that you. Sorry, I
Oh,
felt like I was about to interrupt you saying something there, Sarah.
I was just going to say, like, just to give an example, our body tells us our stomach will growl when we're hungry. That's our body saying, I'm hungry. When we're thirsty, we've already been dehydrated for a while by the time we actually feel thirsty. So these are just the little things that, just to kind of give that example of what most people are aware of, right? So this is the stuff that's easy to sort of, say, oh, my stomach's growling, I must be hungry. Or what else did I write down? When you're tired, you're going to yawn, and your body's telling you you're tired.
We're all going to start yawning now, Sarah. Now
you will if I just open my mouth and look at you for a while. Try that. So I think some other things are just a lot more subtle, and we don't put two and two together. Like, I've spent the last 15 or 16 years working with the skin as a facialist. And one thing that I wanted to bring up is the things that are going on in the body show up in the skin. Your skin is the largest organ, and it's the first line of defense. So it's important to look after the health of your skin. It stops infection from coming in, and so on. So I'll just give you a little example in face mapping. So it's just something from TCM, and some other places use it. But it comes from TCM, I'm sure of it, because everything seems to.
That total Chinese medicine,
traditional Chinese medicine. Yeah. And so if you look at somebody, if they have a lot of acne around their mouth, that's actually an indicator of digestive or constipation. So if it's here, if somebody has problems right here on the cheeks, that's the lungs. That's grief. Grief is held in the lungs. So if you see somebody with super red, and when you know what this stuff is, then you can actually treat the cause instead of just looking at the skin and say, give me some cream. Like, I need something to dry this up, when that's not getting at the cause. But the point I was trying to make with that is, the more you look for what the body is telling you, just as we were speaking to, the more you can actually see it, or you can, if you can perceive that it's telling you something, then you can tap into it. So I'd be interested to hear. I just wanted to give those examples.
I like that. I've instantly got a question to that, and I'm sure Rick has as well. But the first thing that came up to me is, if And it's great that the body sends us those signals in a physical way, like we start to get a symptom or we get some kind of something going on with our skin. It's a sign that this is happening. Is that because we haven't listened? Like, when does that start? Does that start right at the beginning, or does that start if we've been ignoring what our body's been saying to us? Because I wonder if there's a first stage, where we just have a sense, that little kind of gut sensation. Something's not quite right. When you were both talking about how when you're quieter, more in an alpha brain wave, maybe for you, Sarah, you're on your own and you might be just having one of your early morning rises, Rick, and there's some peace and quiet, and all of a sudden this communication starts. Is it for people? Do you think it happens that we get more symptoms the more we ignore the body?
I think our body will dial it up if we ignore it.
Yeah.
So if you start out with a pain and you ignore the pain, the body's kind of like, if the body were to speak, the body's like, oh, she's not listening to me right now. Let me just dial that up a little bit. And then eventually, so the answer to your question, I feel, is it's both. I think some things show up right away. Like if you have a glass of red wine and you react to that, I think it can, if it's something that your body doesn't like, I think it would show immediately. But then there are some things that don't show up until later as well.
Yeah.
But I'd be
I
interested
get a
to know.
vodka flush,
Yeah,
which shouldn't be mistaken from my usual flush here anyway, from just being in the sun. So I'm not actually on vodka, but if I do have vodka, I go,
Yeah.
my body doesn't like it. Rick.
Yeah, I think it's both too, Sarah. I think the reaction, let's use the skin as an example. If we are ingesting something or there's a malady within the body and it shows up in the skin, we're unaware of what the source of it, the cause of it, the root cause of it is. But we see the outer blemishes or the reaction to it, which then may stimulate to question what is going on, and then we may receive an answer where you need to drink more water or you need to do this or that. But on other occasions, it can be, there's a message, drink more water first. So that can be, the organs can be speaking to us, and we take note of that depending on how present we are, how conscious we are, how distracted we are. And if we miss that, then the next sign is the manifestation of that reaction to whatever it is. So it's a bit of both.
Yeah. Genevieve's chipping in with, it starts with a pebble, then a rock, and if we still don't listen, it's the boulder.
Yes.
Yeah, I think we've all experienced that. Yeah, it lets us know, doesn't it? I don't talk about this very often, but there, about 5 years ago, and it's interesting that you were saying the cheeks are related to grief. It's about 5 or no, it's longer than that. It must be about 7 years ago. I got this little mark on my cheek, almost overnight, and it looked like a little butterfly. And I kept trying to work out what it was, and I decided I was going to heal myself. Got different not medications like herbal type things. Meditated, asked my body to tell me what it was, and I was so determined to do it myself, and not determined to go to a doctor who would talk me into a diagnosis. That was my overall belief. And in the end, I decided to use black salve on myself. And black salve apparently, will work with cancer. By the way, I'm not giving out any health advice for anyone that's listening. Definitely not a doctor here. Don't rock up to the Louisa Apothecary because it's really wrong. Just a little comment there. We've got a legal disclaimer in the comments as well. I put this apparently with black salve. What's in it? If there's cancerous cells, you'll get this big reaction. And if there's nothing there, if it's benign, there'll be no reaction. Well, my whole face came up, my eye came up, big old scab. Now I'm left, as it's healed back in, because it apparently takes a divot out of your skin and it heals back. I've got this kind of scar. I don't actually know if I ever got to the root of it or not. I have absolutely no idea. But every time I see that mark on my face, and because it's filled in with newer skin cells, if I go in the sun, It gets
Mhm.
sunburned before everything else. But it's almost there as a permanent marker that maybe I didn't quite tune in quite correctly. And you were saying like it's lungs. About 9 months before that, I had a miscarriage. So that may have been
The grief,
what was
yep.
going on. It's fascinating, isn't it?
So,
Jeez.
I think our body is covered with scars that we can't see,
Yeah.
you know, and
Oh,
then the sun makes them visible. So
yes.
people will get an age spot and they'll say, or I'm calling it an age spot. You get a brown spot on your face.
Yeah.
Uh, that's from a trauma somewhere. Maybe maybe it happened many years ago, and then all of a sudden the sun is just kind of, and because it's a scar, it actually gets that pigment to try to protect itself. That's why
Right.
the pigment shows up there. So
Wow.
it's our body is actually, I don't know which one of you said it, looking after it. We're set up to look after, our body's set up to look after itself, to do the
Mm.
things that protect it. And there are some of the things it does that we don't like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Well, if we're from nature, nature renews and regenerates itself.
Yeah.
So our bodies are capable of renewing and regenerating themselves to a certain capacity, and that is when the toxin is overcoming the body's ability to heal. Our immune system is set up to be able to counter these toxicities.
Yeah.
And if it's a magnitude that it overwhelms it, then that's when the imbalance happens, the dis-ease within the body, which can eventually ferment into disease.
Yeah.
So these bodies are designed to last to about 120 years. And there are people on this planet that have lived well beyond that. And it just, a lot of it depends on the environment. And of course, we know with our modern environment, there is lots of toxicity about that our body is now struggling in some cases to be able to overcome.
It's fascinating because I've got this book that kind of mysteriously appeared in a Telegram feed with a recommendation that I might find it interesting. I never knew who it came from, so I always wondered, oh, was that some kind benevolent soul that sent me that, or is that someone that knows? I won't check anything out with a real doctor. It's like giving me a recipe to kill myself with. But in this book, there was a cited experiment that somebody had done because they'd noticed that there's a pattern between the length of time it takes for us to become reproductive, and then there's another like length of time that goes on beyond that is our lifespan. So for instance, I can't remember what the ratio is, but it's something like you survive 10 times the length of how long it takes for you to reach puberty. And I don't know the exact ratio, but it gave loads and loads of different examples. Given how long it takes for us to get to puberty, it was saying we should be living for like 250 years or something. But why are we the only species who has such a short ratio that we almost start sickening after we get to puberty? We almost start to go downhill then. And it mentioned that cells, if you keep a cell in a pristine state, in a beautiful saline, if everything is correct, you can keep a cell to live almost indefinitely. And they did this experiment with a lone, I think, a chicken blood cell. And it was kept in some form. I don't know if it's like saline or something, but it was kept alive for 25 years. Now, normally that cell would die within hours, but it was kept alive because it was kept in this pristine state. And it actually only died because the technician forgot to change the water. And they kept this experiment going for a really long time. And so what this message that I'd received suggested was that it's all environmental, which of course goes completely against what modern medicine is premised on. I'm not surprised or shocked by that, but it's the age-old discussion. Are we getting ill because of viruses and bacterias, or can we actually manage our health through our environment? I think I'm heading more to the environmental stage and also the emotional, spiritual stage. Like, can we deal with trauma? Can we release it? Can we also keep our bodies in a beautiful, pristine state? We've got a couple of people joining us, some extra ones. We've got Gillian from Scotland saying hello sorry, that was a terrible Scottish accent. That wasn't even the real attempt. Hello from sunny Scotland. And, we've got our friend Elizabeth van der Haven from, she's in Holland right now, saying hello to Sarah and Louisa. I'm sure she'd extend that to you, Rick, as well.
Hello.
Hello.
So where are we now in the conversation? What do we want to add? Or
Well, I've decided that I'm going to come back as a chicken next lifetime.
It's fascinating.
I think it's a combination. I think we need to take a holistic approach to it.
Yeah.
That there are so many factors that can cause disease. Now we're looking at electromagnetic frequencies, radiation, toxic chemicals, toxicity in the air, the soil, the water, and then looking at our diet, and then our mental health and emotional stability. All of those things, if we look at it as a one, not disconnected, but interconnected, as a body, mind, spirit, emotional body, and looking at what is the health regimens for incrementally making those more healthy and more well-being to each of those areas as a holistic approach.
Yeah.
Sarah?
I would like to add to your list just maybe a different way of looking at the mental health piece. I really feel like judgment is a part of the environmental factor. As in a nutshell, like the judgment that we hold against ourselves affects our health. The judgment that we're putting out into the world and judging others, the judgments that we perceive from other people, just becoming more in allowance of things instead of thinking that we have to judge it. So you can receive this, like if somebody, for example, insults you and you sort of agree with something that they said. Like if they say, oh, I don't like what you're wearing today, or you look awful, and you had a hard time getting dressed that morning because you have nothing in your closet that you like. Yeah. And then they say, oh, you look like, you don't look good today. Because you sort of agree with it yourself, then the judgment sticks you because you're like, I kind of align and agree with this. And then you can go back to judging yourself again. But if you got dressed and you look like $1 million, like you feel good, that you're happy in what you have on, and you're having too much fun to notice when other people are judging you. Yeah. Like, so somebody says, oh, you look like crap. You're like, whatever. Yeah. So it's kind of, what if we could just receive more of that, with some more allowance instead of thinking we have to do anything about it. And also, Rick or Louisa, didn't somebody have an experiment where they talked to plants? I keep going back to plants today. And they had one scenario where they were nice to the plant, said, good plant, you're amazing, you're so green. And then they had another one that they, basically judged and criticized, and one of them did better. And you can guess which one.
Yes. That's a very well-known experiment. Also, in the same vein of that, Emoto's work, the Japanese scientist.
Yeah, I was about to mention that.
So our body's 80% water, whatever it is. And whatever thoughts we are having, whatever we're wearing on our T-shirt, or whatever tattoos we may be having, it's going to have a profound effect on the quality of the water. And Emoto has proven this time and time again.
So if you read that.
So that can have a profound effect on our well-being as well. Yeah. And I'm very conscious of this when I look around me. I think, what are people wearing, like, and some of the messages on T-shirts, I know, are having a profound effect on the water of that body. So we're talking about so many aspects that can bring us out of balance and bring dis-ease. So.
Right. I want to come in because I'm seeing lots of connections now, and there's been loads of lovely connections and ties all over this place. But at the start, we were talking about water. You were saying water, and we were talking about waters, and that cells are water as well. And now you're talking about the Emoto, water programming. And Sarah, you're talking about plants, which are like 90% water, maybe more or whatever. I've been looking more and more about frequency and sound and vibration. Only this morning I was watching something I think originated from TikTok. It's now on Telegram, talking about like Rife machines and things like that, which I'm sure we all know about, and quite a few people in this chat room will. We've got other comments coming in I just want to share. So Elizabeth is saying, by the way, Elizabeth, I hope you don't mind me revealing, Elizabeth's a very talented homeopath and really deeply listens in. So she said, I don't believe in 100% health state. She's also saying, so disease overcoming is also growth. I notice actually when my kids get ill, it's always before they're about to get stronger. It's like, if they experience something, they come bouncing back. And the moment they're fighting each other, then I know, wow, they are on the road to recovery. You find that, Rick? You also got a hello, Rick, from Elizabeth. So she's including.
Hello, Elizabeth.
And Elizabeth is saying, I'm wearing colours instead of black, which I'm guilty of too. Yeah, all three of us are in black, funnily enough.
Yeah.
We've got Jay Atkinson with a bon dia from sunny North Wales, and she's also saying, I absolutely love Emoto's work, which is fantastic. We've got Donna Marie, who I think of as Donna Joseph. Did you change your name, Donna, recently? Donna's on my show on Thursday, where we're talking about is suffering a necessary part of life. She's coming on with Jenny, who's also watching today. Fabulous conversation, Louisa. Looking forward to our discussion on Thursday. Love from Donna in the Dominican Republic. Bless her, she's getting up at sort of 4:30 or something to speak with us. Elizabeth's also saying, with water programming frequency, homeopathy comes in.
Yes.
Owen is saying, at my gardening vegetable plot, I constantly talk and sing and play music to my plants, much to the amusement of my fellow gardeners. I've not had a bad plant to this day. It works. They know. And you give your plants names as well, don't you, Owen? So they have identities. I love that you do that. There's another comment that, T-Deck is saying smash that like button to anyone in the who's watching. That helps us with our algorithms. I remember when they did good bad plant treatment on The Good Life. I don't remember that, but actually following on from what you were saying, Sarah, plants are also psychic. So in the book The Secret Life of Plants, they were talking, obviously you can tell a plant it's good, you can tell a plant it's bad, but they did a kind of psychological thriller type experiment on it. And so they told the plant, it was lighting a match right near the plant. It said, I'm going to burn you. And it connected the plant up to a lie detector test. Now, every time the person like burning a leaf, every time somebody actually intentionally burnt the leaf of the plant registered a shock feeling on the lie detector. When the person said, I'm going to burn you, but wasn't actually going to burn the plant made it knew. So it knew the human intention.
Oh.
Yes.
I'm going to burn you, but I'm not really. And the plant didn't register any shock because it knew it wasn't going to happen. It was like, yeah, whatever. Yeah. You're just all talk, mister. So, plants are really psychic. And I think animals are as well. Now, if we could upgrade all of our cells to talk to each other, could we also upgrade ourselves that we can talk to everybody's cells all the time and the cells of the plants? Is this like the ultimate merge? It's just my thought that's just arising in me right now. Rick, you're glowing gold. You look like you're about to ascend. Is that the late night sunset?
I'm levitating.
Oh, I love this.
Are
So,
you gonna kind of shift?
yes, the shift has hit the fan. I wonder, there's 8 billion people on this planet,
Yeah.
and let's say there are 80 trillion cells, right?
Yeah.
Would we be capable of communicating and receiving communication for that volume of messages? Certainly not at this stage.
No.
Unless we see things as one, instead of seeing cells as separate, see them as one element. Look for the triune in the separateness, to that this is all a life force, and this is all consciousness that's permeating through every life force. This is why the plant can have a reaction. I think it's not so much psychic, that it is consciousness that is the key that's running through, permeating through everything. Even the rock, even the things that we think have no life in them, are powered by consciousness. So it doesn't matter what it is. We've probably all had pets, and we can connect with that pet on a different level than something else or someone else.
Yeah.
So it comes down the funnel to consciousness is the key.
Yes. Love that. I'm getting tingles.
Oh, me too.
Sarah.
Well, so when you talk about consciousness and about, well, we're all part of this thing, right? And again, I'm going to say a disclaimer. This is just my point of view. I could be, other people might not feel that this is their, anyway, that's my disclaimer. So what if we looked at consciousness like this oneness, the oneness that everything is a part of? If we look at it like it's always available, it's always available. So it's this massive, I don't know what you want to, what you would even picture it as, where everything is part of it. And our minds are like, I'm going to compare it to a Wi-Fi signal. And we can go into that consciousness and we can pick up whatever we want to dial into. So if I want to dial into judgment and cattiness, I can dial into that, and I can pick up on all this stuff, and I can put my body in that state, and I can do all of that. I do think we are in charge of the Wi-Fi signal that we connect into with. Because have you ever had an idea and all of the sudden you don't do anything about it, and then 3 days later somebody else does it, and you're like,
they got my idea.
I put it into consciousness, and someone else tapped into it before I did anything with it. Maybe.
Yeah. Yes.
Maybe.
I believe that happens. And I believe we get other people's ideas too.
Yeah. So I don't think that anything is really truly original.
That's right.
I feel like it's all what we want to dial into. Like, I don't own anything that way, and I don't think any of us do. But I think we can tap into, it's all available. It's like a buffet.
Yes. Yeah, lovely.
Love that.
And what you're alluding to there was quantum entanglement.
Yes.
And that this consciousness is infinite. It has no beginning and no ending. It looks like that, right? So it was never not there, and it will never cease to be. Right? It just is. And we can't describe it. And the moment we put a label on it, it's not that, because it's infinite. How could you possibly label infiniteness? But in terms of human experience, we need to put these labels on. But for me, conscious and love are synonyms. Right? And that this conscious has always been there, and it will always remain there. And that's who we are when we strip away this physical body, these emotions, these thoughts, this story that we've written about our life. We take that away, and what's left is just pure consciousness. And consciousness is not in anything, it is everything.
Yes.
So and yeah, I'm rabbiting on here, but
Well,
it's
I'm
amazing.
lapping it up. I love it.
Yeah, and we're getting loads more comments. So let me just share a few more and then we'll start to wrap up. So Elizabeth saying, oh, Sarah, all the time, like a wave going through the world. I think that was in terms of your sort of idea that there's this great big buffet of ideas that we can all tune into. Gillian is saying, oh, hang on, I should go through this in a better order, actually. So Owen is saying, I do, in terms of naming his plants. Donna is, yes, I can explain my name on Thursday, so I'm excited to hear what's going on there. Jay is saying, yes, Cleve Baxter in the 90s in America wrote about primary cell perception and the intelligence of plant life. Thanks for that, Jay. I really appreciate that. Judgment is massively corrosive. Thanks, Sarah. Yeah, and that's from Gillian. Jay is saying, love yourself. Funnily enough, Jay, I wrote a hypnotherapeutic, a 20-day hypnotherapeutic series, actually on this channel, the Barefoot Broadcast, called something like Love Yourself, with cell and a F on it. Talking to the cells. I totally forgot about it, but each day we talk to the cells in a different organ. and try to listen in. I totally forgot about that. Elizabeth saying, yes, going deep now. The level of Christ consciousness. Yeah, I feel that too. Gillian is saying, I'm still watching on catch up, double speed. So a bit behind. I love how Gillian does that. I didn't even know you could watch something on double speed to catch up. And I wonder what we sound like. We must sound like
Munchkins.
Nice. Yeah. Elizabeth saying, I also feel once we are at that level, our journey here on earth is done. Oh, that's interesting, isn't it? Sometimes I have a thought that, oh, wow, everything is right in my world. It's like just really perfect. And then this fear comes in that maybe I've come to the end of the road because it's all. Does anyone else have that?
No.
No. I just think this couldn't get any better. Like how, and that would be the best question to ask is how could it get any better than this? Then you're putting something in the future. Gillian's also saying, yes, Owen, lots of good friends in the garden. So there's a lot of talk around consciousness and how we express it differently. And Elizabeth is saying, oh no, just spotted the number of subscribers, 777, cool number. Oh, thank you, Gillian. Well, that has only just happened, must have happened during this show because it wasn't there earlier. So that's amazing that we've got to that lovely number. I love that number so much. So, and Siri's joining us as well now, saying hi. Hi, Siri. Thanks for joining us today. So in response to what does your body know that you don't, is there anything that you're now thinking, wow, we haven't touched on that? Go on, Rick.
Yes, miss.
Come on.
I talked about the DNA. We don't know why we're only using 2%. But here's the other biggie to think about. We probably don't have much time. What about brain? We're only using 10% of our brain. What would it be like to be using 100% of our DNA and 100% of our brain? What sort of human beings would we be? And what sort of intelligent, wise behaviors would emanate from that source?
Should we keep some of these ideas for another discussion? Because it almost feels like we need a part two.
Yeah, we certainly won't get it done in 2 minutes.
That would be an amazing topic. Just that, what you just said, Rick. That would be so fun.
Thank you.
Definitely. It really would. When you said that, I was thinking, 100% brain-led people. What about 100% heart? Because we normally talk about the journey between the brain and the heart.
Yeah, that's right.
I wonder if the brain would be wise enough if we were using 100% of it. Would it take us deeply into rationality?
Well,
or
I have a
would
question.
Come out the other side. Go on.
Sarah.
Sorry, I'm getting excited. So you talk about that. What if that portion of our brain that we're not using for thinking is actually our heart right now?
Love that. Oh, guys, I love this so much.
And that's how that connection. And so I just want to say before we finish, Louisa, can we spend a few seconds, I don't care, maybe 10, 15 seconds, and just send out love communication,
Yeah, why
just to
not?
see what that might create today, or we might not be privy to what it creates, but I would love to do that.
Okay,
If you're on board, and all the people
I'm
in the
totally on
comments, or
board.
anyone watching,
Everyone
like,
on board that's watching?
Yes.
I think so, because we've got Elizabeth saying expanding. Brain chat would be great, and heart. Ooh, the heart. Now you're talking.
yeah.
Ooh, Sarah, yes. Okay, I think we've got permission. Go on then, Sarah.
So I think if we just go into our heart right now, everybody just go into your heart center and just wrap that love in love, and put that out into consciousness and send it to anyone who might require it today. And just feel that going right now.
Wow, that was nice.
I think we didn't drop a pebble in the pond that time. That was a huge big boulder. And it's not water, it's going out into the ether and rippling through the multiverse.
Yes.
So groovy. I'm feeling it right now. Whew. And Carl upstairs saying, I'm on board. T-Duck, peace, health, and happiness to all. Owen, yes, I've wrote a short poem about self-love. He has. It's really good.
It's good too.
Heart-led, yes. Thank you, Thunderduck. That's truly healing. Thank you. Thank you. What a beautiful way to start the day. And we've got a lovely golden heart there as well. Thank you.
May I make a suggestion for the next
Yes, Rick.
Let's ask the question, what would be possible if we as human beings were operating with all of our DNA active, 100% of our brain, and our heart-brain connection encapsulated in consciousness? What would that human being look like?
Wow.
That's such a long one that I can't actually write it down. I'm going to take it off of the recording. I put a message in my notes. Yes. Well, would you like to meet up again to have this discussion?
Yes,
How about
please.
2 weeks' time we follow up on this one?
Mm-hmm.
That works for me.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I think we should probably call it to a close now, lovingly. It's been a fantastic get together. I feel really great. I'm really enjoying that. And what time is it then now, Rick? It's starting, the light's starting to dim,
6:09 at night.
and it goes dark at 6:30, is it? Or
yeah, about 6:20 or so.
oh wow. So we're all at different time zones, or we're in the same one, me and you, Sarah. But yeah, I wonder how this is going to set us up for the rest of our day. So good. Anyway, thank you, both of you, for joining me today. Thank you to everybody that's listening live. And again, thank you for everyone that's listening in a playback. Please let us know your thoughts if you're listening in playback. These are really fantastic conversations. I'm so lucky to have such amazing people joining me. And we're doing this every Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday at the same time, which is 10:05 UK time. And in the notes, it's got the local time wherever you are in the world as well. So please do join us again another time. I'm feeling really expanded. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Louisa.
Very grateful
with you, Sarah.
Same here. This has been great. I feel great. I can almost not even form a thought or a sentence now.
Fantastic. Right. Well, I'm going to bring on the outro and say goodbye, but enjoy the rest of your day. And I'll catch up with you soon. I'm not going to tell you to stay well, Sarah. Okay. So.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.